Hi there, everyone. My name is Pirag. I'm one of the internal medicine residents at Stanford, and today I want to talk about 5 tips to thrive in residency, specifically from a chief resident. This is actually Peter, who was one of the chiefs last year here at Stanford, taught me a lot and shared 5 tips with all of us during his last morning report at Stanford. And I thought they were very insightful, so I want to go ahead and share them with you because I personally think that anyone who is in any level of training, whether you're a medical student or resident, can gain a lot from this because coming from a chief resident just says a lot that these things will still hold true even once you're at the end of your training and then ultimately in fellowship and beyond. So the first thing is that all of these are going to be in the form of quotes, and I just tried to make them very big so we remember them. He basically said the first tip is that he really loves the statement, "I don't know, but I can find out." And that's usually like the big theme of residency. You often will not know the answers for a lot of things, but if you just look it up, even after you talk to the patient, even if you're thinking about something, that will make you a better doctor. But more importantly, everyone knows that you won't know everything. So it's okay to accept that and just say, I'll look it up and come back to us all, down the road. And I think ultimately the reason I took a lot of comfort in this is that hearing this from a chief resident says a lot because that implies that even he accepts that there are things that he or she won't know and that they'll be able to kind of grow into this process. So that's tip number 1. Let's keep going. The next tip that Peter shared with me is to ask for help early and often. He was saying this from his perspective as the attending, because chief residents sometimes act as attendings on our services. And so he was saying that whenever there's something he knows that he might struggle with, he would ask for help early and often. I thought those 2 words were particularly important. Not just ask for help often, which is what I feel like I was already doing, but early was really important because you're never going to get in trouble for worrying about something that didn't happen, but you will get in trouble for not worrying about something that did happen. So it's important that if you're worried about something even a little bit, that you ask for help or at least figure out a way to address it. Because if you're worried about something and you never bring it up, then that worry is going to kind of stay with you. And the one thing I like to remember is you always want to never worry alone, and you want to get as many people involved in your worry as possible. You obviously don't want to blow it out of proportion, but at the same time, you want to make sure that other people know that you're concerned. So if and when something bad happens, you're not the only person because you may not be in the hospital. Other people around you are aware of what you were worried about. The other quote that kind of follows along this second tidbit is actually from House of God, which is a novel. It's a book that everyone should probably eventually read. Some of it is a little bit more tough to read when you're going through the process because a lot of parts of it are true and it's very hyperbolic at certain points, but also very realistic of what medical training is. But here's the quote. "Every intern makes mistakes. The important thing is to neither make the same mistake twice, nor make a whole bunch of mistakes all at once." I think this falls in line with the previous one, which is to ask for help early and often, because this piece of advice is essentially going to help you prevent this. Usually this will help you prevent the fact that you will make the same mistake twice, because chances are if you make one mistake at one time and you ask for help, you won't make that mistake again. And if you're getting other people in on what you're worried about, they will also ensure that a lot of mistakes don't happen all at once, because that's usually when catastrophic patient outcomes can occur. So that's kind of tip number 3. Tip number 2.5, I guess. Tip number 3 is actually that imposter syndrome is everywhere, but you are amazing and you are meant to be here. So Peter mentioned this because I think everyone deals with imposter syndrome at every single level of medical training. You feel it when you get into medical school and you're like, wow, everyone here is way smarter than I am. You feel it when you first enter the hospital where you'll say the exact same thing as a medical student. Wow, everyone here is way smarter than I am. I am not supposed to be here. And then you'll feel it again when you start residency and you're surrounded by incredible colleagues. You might be wondering why there is a duck here. And there's a very famous syndrome that happens. It's called the duck syndrome. And at Stanford, it's called the Stanford duck syndrome, but I think it can be applicable anywhere. And the reason why it's called the duck syndrome is that ducks, if you look at them, they're kind of floating on the water, chilling, and it looks like they're having a great time. But if you look at the feet under the water, the duck is always kind of stressing out and moving really quickly. That usually is a sign of imposter syndrome, at least in my head, because what it shows to me is everyone around me is always looking like these ducks that look great, but I'm hoping that everyone else is also kind of struggling just as much as I am. But it's very tough to know that because you only have your personal experience to kind of go off of, and it's very, very, very tough for you to know how everyone else is doing. But just know that imposter syndrome is everywhere, and you are meant to be here. This is a really, really important tip. And then there's this quote from Peter that I still had to quote directly from him because I think it's perfect. It's, your strengths and weaknesses may not be the same as someone else's, and that's fabulous. I think there's two ways to interpret this, right? One is to kind of go back towards that imposter syndrome where it's very easy to see what everyone else is good at and say that you are not good at those things and look at it as a negative. But in reality, we all are good at our own things, and our strengths and weaknesses don't align with other people's strengths and weaknesses. And that's fabulous, as Peter said, because that's what the healthcare system relies on, right? It relies on a team of individuals who have differing skill sets such that things don't get missed. If we're all good and bad at the exact same things, things get missed. There's some incredible case managers who ensure that our patients end up getting appropriate disposition and they're able to get home or to a nursing home safely. There's some doctors who do a really big point to make sure they're on the same page with the case managers, and there's some other doctors who are some incredible diagnosticians, and there's other doctors who are great at communicating. Everyone's strengths and weaknesses are different, and I think we need to kind of celebrate that and not expect every doctor to be one shape or form. I think we all need to kind of see what we all bring to the table and accept that we're going to complement each other and work together, right? And so those are like the 5 big things that I think are very important and things that I kind of think about every day, even when I feel like it was a tough day. I try to remember these things, and sometimes it's hard to internalize them. But the fact that a chief resident kind of told me these is something I take a lot of credit in because it's something that I know we're all working on. So remember, the first one is that always it's okay to not know something, but try to find out. Ask for help early and often. Try not to make the same mistake twice or to make a whole bunch of mistakes all at once. And one of the ways we can do that is by ensuring we always ask for help early and often. Imposter syndrome is everywhere, and that's okay. You're amazing and meant to be wherever you are, and every part of your journey is going to be a reiteration of that fact, even if you feel like you don't belong, like this duck. Just know that everyone else is working hard and feels similarly sometimes. And lastly, just remember that you may not always have the same strengths and weaknesses as someone else, and that's totally okay. Other people may be better than you at a lot of things, and that's fine. You will probably be great at certain things that's very specific to you, and we should celebrate that. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.